Geoff Freed, Director of Technology Projects and Web Media Standards, the Carl and Ruth Shapiro Family National Center for Accessible Media. This segment, MAGPie Demonstration with Geoff Freed, was originally broadcast as part of an interactive webinar on Do-It-Yourself Educational Description, Guidelines and Tools for teachers to improve access to video for blind students in the classroom. This webinar series is a project of the Smith-Kettlewell Video Description Research and Development Center and was produced by the Described and Captioned Media Program. You can find more information about this project at VDRDC.org and webinar.dcmp.org.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to give you a brief demonstration of some free software that we issued from NCAM over a decade ago called MAGPie. MAGPie gives you the ability to add not just audio descriptions but also captions to various forms of online multimedia, and I will be demonstrating just the description part of MAGPie today. MAGPie is something you can download for free from the NCAM website, which is just NCAM, NCAM.wgbh.org. That's N like in Nancy, C-A-M like in Mary, .wgbh.org. There's a link on the homepage to tools, and on the tools page you'll find MAGPie as well as some other resources that we make available for making various forms of multimedia accessible. MAGPie is software for Windows only. It runs on just about any Windows OS that you'll encounter today. I can't say anything about Windows 8. Windows 7, XP are certainly supported. So what we have on the screen is the MAGPie Editor, which currently is empty. What I'll do is lead you through the process of loading a movie into MAGPie, writing just a couple of descriptions since our time is limited, adjusting the descriptions, timing them to the media to appear at the right point, and then exporting the whole package, which is to say video with descriptions, to a QuickTime movie, and then showing you what that looks like. And then we'll take questions afterwards. After you open MAGPie, you need to load a video into it. So you open the File menu, and you choose New Project, and you click on the Browse button, and you go find the movie. MAGPie will support any video format that is supported by QuickTime, which is to say any MOV file, AVI. If you have, say, a Windows Media clip, a WMV, if you simply convert that to MOV or something that QuickTime will support, you can use that as a scratch clip while you're doing your descriptions. So we'll choose a movie, and we'll open it. Since we're not doing any captions, I'll just delete the caption region just to save some space on the screen, and we'll hit OK. And you want to, in the track window that you receive, you want to make sure you choose audio descriptions, since that's what we'll be doing today. Press OK, and then the movie will load in a separate window. So now what we have on the screen are two windows. On the right side of the screen, you see the MAGPie Editor. And on the left side of the screen, I will make this window a little larger, is the video window. Right now it looks like just a big black box. This movie is about 4 minutes long, but we're only going to be adding descriptions to the first 30 seconds or so. We'll have time for probably 2 descriptions. Taking into account the rules and suggestions that Rick just discussed, all of that information we're going to apply here, or a lot of it we're going to apply here. The first thing that I recommend that you do is watch what you're going to describe. So if you've never seen the movie, obviously you want to watch not just the scene you're going to describe, but watch other material, before and after, so you get the whole thing in context. I realize that display of video in a conference like this is not going to be smooth and continuous. You'll probably get a refresh about every second or so. So the video will appear to be very jerky, but the audio should be about as clear as my voice. I have a little set of speakers here set up, and so you should be able to hear the audio without any problem. I will press the play button, and you'll at least hear audio, and you'll probably see some jerky video. Up at the top of the MAGPie Editor window is a set of video controls, conventional controls, stop, pause, fast forward, rewind, and play, as well as a little scrubber to slide around the timeline. I'll press the play button, and we'll watch about 30 seconds.
Hi, chicken okay, Bob? I was at Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it. I love junk food. I like eating street food. I like eating...
Okay. So we saw, maybe 20, 30 seconds of video, and in the audio, we've got two pauses. There's about a 5-second pause, then a narrator comes on and says something, introduces Linda Bartoshuk, and then there's another pause. And so what we're going to do is stick descriptions into those two pauses. Let's go back to the beginning. Now, in the MAGPie Editor, on screen, we have what looks like a grid. And in this grid is where we're going to put all the information for our first description. On the far right, there is a column called Audio Transcription, and this is where you simply type a script. You can type everything that you want to say in here, or you can just type notes to yourself, because you're going to be recording after you type the transcription. The transcription does not appear anywhere but in the editor, so the transcription is basically for your reference. The remaining cells in the grid are spaces where timecode information will go, meaning the timecode information for when the description should play and when it should stop playing, if that's necessary. And then there is a cell in the grid called Audio Resource, and that will be the actual audio file for the description. MAGPie comes with a nice feature, which is a little audio recorder, so you can actually not just write the text of the description in MAGPie, you can actually record it and then sequence it into the movie. Now, what we'll do is play the very beginning of the movie and time the pause into which we're going to put a description, because you need to know how much time you have before you record or write, and then we'll go from there. So we have roughly 5 seconds before the woman says hi. So we have about a 5-second pause into which to put a description. Since the video is pretty jerky, what's happening on the screen is there's a crowd of people on a city sidewalk, and there's a line of street vendors, and the woman walks through the crowd and walks up to one of the vendors and starts speaking. So within those 5 seconds, we're going to try and describe as much as we can that is pertinent, and this is what I think might make a good description, and I'll type it into the audio transcription cell and also read it aloud when I'm done typing. Okay, if you couldn't understand all of my tapping, what I typed is the following. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor. And I think that's probably going to fit into the roughly 5-second window that we have. All right, and then I will hit the return key twice to make a new cell to type the next description into. The process I'm going to follow, since we only have 2 descriptions, is I'm going to write both the descriptions, then I'm going to record both the descriptions, and then I'm going to sequence both the descriptions into MAGPie. So we'll do them. We'll do it that way. All right, let's play the movie.
Bob, I was at Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it. I love junk food.
I love junk food too. So we have about a 2.5-second pause between the time when she places her order and, between the time where the narrator announces who's speaking and then when she comes on and talks about junk food. And what's happening on the screen is the street vendor that Linda Bartoshuk is talking to is taking chicken off of the grill that he's just cooked and scooping it onto a round piece of flatbread. So I will write the following description. A vendor, actually let me type it, I can't type and speak at the same time. Oops. Okay, and the description that I wrote is as follows. A vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. And I think that's probably going to take me a good 2 seconds or so to speak when I record it. All right, we've written our descriptions. One thing we haven't done is saved our file. Always save your work, because you never know when things are going to blow up. Okay, so we have 2 descriptions. Let's go back to the first one. And now we're going to record. Down at the bottom of the editor window is a button that says Record Description. And we press that, and up pops a new dialog that contains controls for the audio recorder. The buttons that you might normally expect: record, play, and stop. There's a button to manipulate the audio settings. There's a browse button, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then there's a button that says Use Generated Unique File Name. If you have a lot of descriptions that you're going to be recording one after the other and you don't feel like naming them yourself, you would check that box, and MAGPie will just assign a name to each one of the audio clips. What I generally recommend, though, is that you actually name the file yourself, because that way you can use a name that refers to the audio clip, and you'll be able to determine what the clip is later on if you need to by the file name. Okay, so to record the audio description, you simply press the record button and you speak into the microphone. And when you're done speaking, you will press the stop button. So now I'm going to record the first description. Here we go. And you'll hear me do this. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor. All right, I press the stop button. Now I'll press the play button and listen to it. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor. That's pretty loud, and it took me almost 5 seconds to do it, 4.87. I'm going to, for the sake of time, leave it. Ordinarily, I might go back and re-record that because it's pretty loud, but I think the speed is okay. So I'm going to type a file name. We'll call it vendors, and I'll press the OK button. And now on the screen, in the audio resource cell for that description, is text that says vendors.wav, W-A-V. That's the name of my audio description file that has been recorded. Okay, let's do the next one. I'm going to click on the row for description number 2, hit the record description button, and press record, and then I'll speak the description, maybe not so loudly. There we go. A vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. All right, play. A vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. And I think I should probably do that a little bit faster, so I'll just record over it. Here we go. The vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. That looks a little better. The vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. All right, I'll type a file name. Call it flatbread, and press OK. Now the file name, flatbread.wav, has appeared in the audio resource column of the editor. All right, so I've written my descriptions. I've recorded my descriptions. Now all I have to do is sequence them or time them into the timeline of this whole presentation. And the way you do this in MAGPie, let me just make a couple of adjustments. The way you do this in MAGPie is with a series of key commands. You can control the player entirely from the keyboard, and that's generally the easiest way to time descriptions or captions in MAGPie. The F6 key is the play and pause control for the video player, and the key command to insert a time code, which is to say, at the moment where you want the description to play, you press F9, and the F9 key will grab the time code at that instant, stick it into the editor, and then move the focus to the next row. So I'll just do a demo here. I'm going to put the focus on the first row, and if I press the F9 key right here, boom, on the screen we now see a time code of 0 in the column called Media Start. That means that at a time of 0 hours, 0 seconds, and 0 frames, my first description will play. Now I don't actually want that, so I'll just delete it for the sake of demonstration. Okay, what I will do is I've rewound the video. I will play the video, and shortly after I begin playing the video, I'm going to press F9, and you will see on the screen a time code inserted into the Media Start column. And then we'll talk about that from there. All right, here we go. I'm going to press F6. Movie starts, F9. I'll pause the video. Now on the screen, you see a media start time of 0.85 seconds, which means at just under 1 second, my first description is going to play. And we can check that right now within MAGPie. We'll go back to the beginning, press the play button, and we'll see what happens.
Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one man.
All right, now you heard that voice that you heard was my recording of the first description, and it slightly violated one rule that Rick mentioned, which is that you don't want to step on the dialogue. I think what I'll do is simply adjust the start time by backing it up a little bit, and I'll do that manually. I'll go from 0.85 to let's go back to 0.35. So at a little over a quarter of a second, that will back things up, and now let's replay and see what happens.
Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything.
Okay, I think that's better. The description comes in, it runs its course, and then the narrator starts, or the lady approaches the vendor cart and starts speaking, and the two audio tracks don't clash. So I think I'm happy with that. Let's go down to the next description. All right, and I'll press the play button. Actually, what I think I'll do this time is I'll show you how to do this on the fly. I'm going to back all the way up to the beginning, and I'm going to begin playing, and at the moment in the timeline where I want the second description to play, I'll simply press F9 without stopping the video, and we'll see what happens. Here we go. I'm going to start playing now.
Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it.
I just pressed F9.
I love junk food. I like it.
Okay. Now, when I pressed F9, the precise moment in time when I pressed it, it was at 12 seconds and roughly a half. All right. Let's go back to the beginning and listen to both descriptions now and see how they sound.
Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it.
The vendor scoops grilled chicken and jam.
I like it.
All right. That was a little bit late. My description clashed with Linda Bartoshuk's voiceover. So I will do this manually again. Right now, the time code says about 12 and a half seconds. I'm going to back it up to about 11 and a quarter seconds, so 11.25. Now, instead of typing it in manually, you can simply rewind the video a bit, play it, and then press F9 and overwrite that time code, but I'm going to do it this way. Let's back it up a little bit, press play, and listen to our change.
All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it.
Vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread.
I love junk food. I like it. Street food. I like it.
Okay. That, I think, got it got in just in time. My description starts right as she stops speaking, and then my description ends right as she begins speaking. Whoops, that happened. There we go. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to save my work. And this is the process that you would repeat for each description. As you can see, there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of work checking as you go along. It can be a very precise process. It can be as precise as you want it to be. And it can be time-consuming. But the more that you do it, obviously, the less time that it will take. All right, now that we've created our descriptions, we need to do something with them. And what we need to do is export this project into something that is one single package, which is to say video with descriptions. In MAGPie, you can export into a number of formats, some of which are actually really no longer used, Real Player, for example. But we're going to export, for the sake of demonstration, into a QuickTime presentation. So from the Export menu, we choose QuickTime. And because this presentation is very short, the export process happens instantaneously. What happens is that MAGPie creates a series of files. It doesn't actually put the descriptions into the video. It creates what's called a SMILE file. SMILE, S-M-I-L, stands for Synchronized Multimedia Integration Language. It's a markup language for presenting video and audio and text from the W3C. It creates a file that coordinates the playback of all the media elements in your presentation, which is to say, coordinates the playback of the video, and in this case, the two audio description files. So when you open the QuickTime movie, which is, where is it? There we go. When you open the .smile file in QuickTime, what opens is a movie, and what will play is the movie with the audio descriptions firing at the appropriate moment. What we have on the screen now is the QuickTime player. I'm going to press the play button and turn this down just a little bit. And what we should see is video, and what we should hear are the two audio descriptions that I sequenced into this movie. Let's see.
Inside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken okay, Bob? Biologist Linda Bartisha studies the sense of taste. Everything on it.
The vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread.
I love junk food. I like.
Okay, and that looks pretty good to me. There was a bit of a jerk at the beginning, which I think was just my computer. But I think what we've done, I think we're done with this clip. We've created two descriptions with MAGPie, and we've inserted them into this movie. Now, what you would do, you could do one of two things. You could save this movie from QuickTime. You can just open the File menu and press Save, and QuickTime will save this movie into one package with descriptions, and the descriptions would be open, meaning everyone would hear them. And you could put this QuickTime movie onto your server, whatever you need to do with it, burn it onto a CD, whatever. You could also simply take the undescribed movie, which in this case is called Demo, I'll highlight it on screen, and take the SMILE file that MAGPie created, which I've highlighted on screen, as well as the two audio files, Flatbread and Vendors, and put them all onto a directory on your server. And what you would link to on, say, a web page is not the movie, but you would link to the SMILE file, so that when the user clicks on the link to play the movie, the SMILE file is called and opens the movie for you with descriptions. That's essentially how it works. Let me close the QuickTime window and just briefly recap in MAGPie. The process that I followed was open the movie, watch what I want to describe, and then write a script in the MAGPie editor. And again, this script is only for the author to see. This is not something that the user sees. And then for each description that I wrote, I recorded it from within MAGPie, timed it from within MAGPie, timed each description to appear and disappear at the right time, saved my work, and then exported everything into a QuickTime presentation using Smile. And I think that about eats up my time. Jason? Or anybody? Should I try? I'll just turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Geoff. Do have a couple of questions. First question is from Katie Humes, who asks if there is a free MAGPie equivalent for the Macintosh.
There used to be one. It used to be called MAGPie for the Mac. But that changed when Intel Macs went away. So there's no free equivalent for it. There is one called Movie Captioner, which is not free. It costs about $100. That will do all of this and more. Actually, no, that's not true. That's for captions. I'm sorry. Free description tool. There is one from Toronto, from Charles Silverman. Capscribe. Capscribe, thank you. Yes, it's called Capscribe, and that is available for free. If you just Google Capscribe, you'll find some links to it, and you send them an email, and they will tell you how to get a hold of the software, and that runs on the Mac. And incidentally, that's for captions and descriptions.
Okay, great. Second question is there a way to create one audio file rather than several small files?
Yes, you can do that in a couple of ways. You can just open up MAGPie and write a script in MAGPie, or just write the script down using any text editor or word processor, and then you can just press the record button, like I'm showing you here, and record the whole thing all at once. And then what you would do, I'll just describe it briefly, is rather than put a separate audio resource for each description, you would put the same single resource in the audio resource column, but in these two little columns here, sorry. One is called audio start and audio end. You would insert the time codes in that audio file at which you want the particular description to play. So if you have say a 30-second audio file containing 3 descriptions, the first one starting at 0 seconds, the second one starting at 10 seconds, and the second one starting at 20 seconds, that's the start information that would go here in the audio start file. You don't have to record the descriptions in MAGPie. You can record the descriptions using any audio recording software. You just simply save the files. You can save them as WAV files or MP3 files, for example. And then you would simply insert that audio resource into the audio resource column, and then time as I showed you, or time as I described. So you can record them either in MAGPie or outside of MAGPie, either way.
Great. Next question is from April Sullivan, who asked, can you say what you did again when you don't want open audio description?
Yeah, sure. That can be a little confusing. In this case, what you would do is, it might actually be useful for me to, I'm going to open the Smile file that MAGPie creates. What you see on screen here, on the screen, is the actual .smile file that MAGPie creates when you press the export button. In MAGPie, what it does is it creates a text file. And this is basically a control file that contains pointers to all of the resources for your presentation, the video and the audio descriptions in this case, as well as some other information. And I will highlight on the screen an important area, which is to say these are the resources that you need to move onto a server, for example, that are required in order to play this presentation with descriptions. A video, which in my case is called demo.move, and then 2 audio files, which are the descriptions, vendors and flatbread. You need to move those 3 files as well as this Smile file, which is the control file that plays the presentation, onto, into a directory, onto a server. And the way to launch the presentation with descriptions is not to open the movie, but to open the smile file, which is always a point of confusion. Does that make sense?
And then this is Josh. I'm just going to help clarify. The way to open the described version is to open the smile file. The way to open the undescribed version is to just open the movie itself.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Josh.
Great. Next question from Ashley is, so you say this does work for Windows 7. Also, is this specifically just for audio recording over video, or does it do other sorts of video editing? And also, what was the website again to download?
Okay, the URL is NCAM, N like in Nancy, CAM like in Mary, .wgbh.org. That's the home page for NCAM, and there's a link that says Tools at the top of the page, and follow the Tools link, and there is a link to MAGPie right in the top section. MAGPie is not a video editor, so you don't use it to edit things out of the video or rearrange segments or anything. You need to use other software for that, and then the movie that you open within MAGPie is the final movie. Adding audio descriptions is among the last steps of the creation of your movie. MAGPie also will allow you to write in time captions into the presentation. So you could use MAGPie to create a captioned, described movie if you wanted to do that, or you can just create descriptions, or you can just create captions. I think I hit all the questions. Did I get everything?
Yes, thanks, Geoff. Next question from Cindy Gershman is, can you link the audio files to a video of a different format than QuickTime compatible?
Yeah, sure. You can do that in the smile file. Let me open that back up again. You can use, hang on. Okay, you can use MAGPie to, like I showed you, record and sequence the descriptions. You just need to use as a media file, as a movie, anything that QuickTime will play. If your final movie is not in the QuickTime format, but it's Windows Media or an AVI, or even if you're going to convert it to Flash, you can just take the audio files that you've created and move those into the appropriate folder or merge them if you need to, if this is a Flash presentation. If you want to use a different, say, source file, a file that's different than the one that you use to actually create the presentation, you can change that in the smile file in the video source region. So, for example, if you actually do plan on creating a presentation for the real player, you could use MAGPie and a QuickTime version of the movie to make the descriptions, and then in the video source, which I'm highlighting on the screen, you'd simply type the name of the actual source file, which might be, say, demo. Whatever it was, I can't remember what the extension was anymore, but you'd simply type the file name in the source value, save the file, and now when you open that smile file, it will open that video that you have specified. Does that make sense?
Great. Next question here is it okay to use JAWS or another computer-generated voice to read the audio transcriptions?
Sure, yeah. You're talking about text-to-speech. In other words, you write the description, and then instead of using a human voice to record, you use JAWS or some other text-to-speech software, right?
I believe that's what they are asking, yes. Okay,
yeah, sure, you can do that. It would be pretty difficult to do that from within MAGPie. So what I would suggest that you do, difficult if not impossible, what you would do instead is write the script in Notepad or WordPad or whatever you want, and then have JAWS read and record at the same time, which you could do with, say, some screen grab software, or use something like Text Aloud, which might be a better way to do it, or some other text-to-speech software. There are a number of applications available if you just Google text-to-speech software that will read text and create an audio file for you, like a WAV file. And then you simply enter the name of each description WAV file that you've created into MAGPie, and then you can do the timing, and then you can do the export.
Funding for the VDRDC in this webinar was provided by the U.S. Department of Education under grant number H327J110005. However, the contents of this webinar do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not